Hi, I'm Shane O'Keefe. I'm the town administrator for the town of Londonderry.
I'm Tina LeBeau. I'm the town treasurer of the town of Londonderry.
Tom Kavanaugh, select board chair.
And town meeting this year will be here at the town hall, 139 Middletown Road. And it'll be Tuesday, March 4th, beginning at 9:30. And getting here early is always best to make sure you get a good seat. And we should have a real nice, good meeting. And normally we have Doug Fryant has been the moderator, and he's up for re-election, as he is every year. And so hopefully he'll be there to lead us through. We have a number of town meeting articles, and the first one is the election of the moderator, and that's done every town. It's the first order of business usually. The next item is the act on the report of town officers, and so that's basically the town report that many people have picked up or been delivered to, and Tina's put together a great town report along with Ali Marino, our town clerk. But that second article is to basically accept all the reports that are in the town annual town report. Then we have the elections of town officials, and it's Tina, do you want to walk us through that one?
Yeah. Every year there's always positions available. This year there's 2 select board members up for re-election. One's a 2-year term and one's a 3-year term. At this point, the town clerk is up for re-election this year for a 1-year term. She's fulfilling a previous 3-year term for our previous town clerk, Kelly Piala. We have a lister up for re-election for a 3-year term and a lister for a 1-year. Cemetery Commission, we have a 5-year term. Trustees of Public Funds, we have one position for a 3-year term, and the South Londonderry Library Trustee for a term of 3 years.
In the next order of business is Article 4, and that's the general fund budget. And the budget amount for this year is proposed to be $3,150,324. That is an increase from the previous year due to a number of factors that we can go over in detail at town meeting if you'd like. But there definitely is an increase, and but nothing's getting cheaper for us. And we the select board and Tina and all the department heads really comb over the town budget and make sure that we're not spending funds on things that we don't really need. So it's a very lean budget, but we have expenses that we just can't live without. Highway expenses are just getting higher and higher for not only equipment but also materials that we have. Anything you all wanted to add to that, or?
No, in that expense, the expenses, last year we had a couple of special articles that were separate from the budget, which are now included in the regular budget, adding a couple of positions to a highway position and the short-term rental coordinator. So that's a good chunk of the increase in our budget.
Sheriff's expenses, have gone up 20% year over year, so that's a big chunk. But still, it's a good value for I think $70,000 for 20 hours a week. It's really a pretty good deal for the town, frankly.
Anything you want to say about the budget?
No.
Article 5 is simply to vote on when the taxes are due, and that would be on or before October 1st of 2025. London, for those who don't know, in Londonderry, it's one time a year payment. Some towns do it a number of times. We do it once a year. We also raise and appropriate funds for local organizations. We split that up into social service, But the first one is in Article 10, and that's for the Conservation Fund, Champion Fire Company, the Phoenix Fire Company, Volunteer Rescue, and then the library. That dollar amount is $91,250. And that is separated from Article 7, which is really for social service agencies such as Green Mountain RSVP, Green Up Vermont, Neighborhood Connections, and things of that nature. There's about 20 some odd agencies that are funded there, so I'm not going to go over those, but that dollar amount is $45,222. Do you want to?
Yeah, Article 8 is, we have been for the last 4 years compiling an Emerald Ash Borer Fund. So we'll fund that at another $3,000.
That's to address the emerald ash borer impacts on our ash trees, which are dying over time, and we need to be able to remove them if they're in hazardous conditions or threatening roadways and things of that nature. We also, in Article 9, would vote to raise and appropriate $100,000 for a highway equipment reserve fund. We put money away every year into the reserve fund to take care of all different equipment at the highway department, which is extremely expensive and also takes a long time to bring in the door. But that's good. With reserve funds, it's a good way to even out the taxes for year over year. Otherwise, if we're buying a certain piece of equipment every few years and funding it that year, it's a big change to the budget from one year over the next. We have a similar fund for the town buildings reserves. That is also $100,000, and that's money that we set aside to take care of major repairs on our different buildings. The town hall here, we've been patching together a little bit at a time over the past few years, and as you probably know, we passed a bond in 2023 for the town office project, which is underway now. That'll be finishing up this spring, and some of the funds for that project will be coming from the reserve funds, and so that's been very helpful to us. Article 11 is to raise and appropriate $340,000 for the Highway Improvement Reserve Fund. Those are funds that go toward paving, that go toward bridge culvert repairs. We, 4 or 5 years ago, had a engineer put together a long-term paving capital plan for us, and that plan calls for us to increase our reserve allocation by $40,000 every year for a certain number of years to really get us to the spot where we need to be in order to properly address the town's highways. Road improvements and paving was underfunded for many years, and as you drive the roads, you'll be able to tell that was the case. So we're trying to stay on top of it and adequately fund this reserve fund as best we can, and we add to that grant funds that we're able to get from the Vermont Agency of Transportation. You want to handle the next one, Tina?
Yeah, Article 12 is to raise and appropriate $20,000 for the Pingree Park Reserve Fund. And the Parks Board asked us to include that in the warning because they want to do some long-term planning for our parks, and just to simply have an engineer or somebody come in is going to take some money to make a long-term plan. So we want to invest in our parks and make them better.
Really is one of the great things that makes Londonderry a great community. Is that we have, even for a small town, we've got some really top-notch park facilities for families and adults. Next one is Article 13, and this I'm going to read this one. It says, shall the town amend the Community Economic Improvement Reserve Fund to add housing to the purposes of the fund, which is at present, quote, to support municipal efforts to plan, promote, and implement economic recovery, revitalization, and development efforts in Londonderry. This fund was established in 2021 and amended in 2022. And this was a fund put together to, for special projects related to economic development in the community, so that there's some flexibility on the part of the select board to either match a grant, or just somehow put money into a project that leads to the betterment of the community. Because of the housing crisis that is affecting every part of Vermont and New England, really, our Housing Commission has requested that housing be added to one of the purposes of this reserve fund, so that money that is there right now, we've put away $5,000 for the past 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, into that fund, that those funds could go for housing as well as other specific economic development activities. And really, in many people's view, housing is a critical economic development piece of our community. So that's the idea, is simply to add housing to the uses of that fund. Anything you want to add to that, or?
No.
Yeah, it sounds complicated, but it's not. It's just to allow for housing to be funded through this reserve fund. And then lastly, we have, second to last, we have Article 14, and says, shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be deposited in the Community Economic Improvement Reserve Fund? As I'd mentioned, normally it's been $5,000 per year, and this is an increase by $20,000 to $25,000 to bolster that reserve fund and allow for, again, contribution to economic development and housing projects through the community. Article 15 is to transact any other business that may legally come before the meeting. So that's an opportunity for people to just bring up different matters. And obviously things, you can't create an all-new article that would be binding on the town in that it wouldn't have received proper notice to the community. So really not a really controversial town meeting this year, from what I can see.
Yeah, I think it should be smooth.